Hi, I'm going to talk about what I'm going to do with this channel, and I'm also going to talk about my worst night, not my worst night, but one of my worst nights in my life with psychosis. So to begin with, what I'm doing with this channel is I didn't upload to my podcast page for a while because I thought I'd forgotten my password. But I found my password, so I don't need to delete that channel anymore. I can still upload to it. So I'm going to keep doing that. And I'm going to keep uploading YouTube videos as well. So what I'll do is I'll record the YouTube video, and I've got this microphone on for the podcast. So I can record the podcast at the same time, and then upload the same video to the podcast, so that you can listen to it on there if you want to listen to it, or you can watch it on here if you would rather watch the video. And so that's sorted. And yeah, I really want to keep making videos because I feel like psychosis isn't talked about enough. And I went for 4 years without being diagnosed with psychosis, and I went to see multiple mental health professionals, and all of them said that I was fine. And they asked me stuff like, have you been doing anything out of the usual recently, or something like that? And I would say no, because I hadn't really done anything much unusual. Like, I was living in my car, but I'd already lived in my car before. I'd already spent time living in it, because when I went to Norway, I went travelling and I slept in my car on the way there. So I was like, that's not really that much out of the ordinary. Although it was a bit out of the ordinary, because I was actually like full-time living in my car. I was completely homeless. And they didn't ask me like, have you started believing in anything new, or have you had any new realizations and stuff like that, like the stuff that would indicate psychosis. So I really believe that if they'd asked the right questions, we could have caught it, and I could have like not suffered as much. So I really want to talk about psychosis, that like mental health professionals can learn to put it in their diagnostic criteria, and they can diagnose it a bit more, especially with the amount of like suicidal attempts and suicide that comes with psychosis. And I always think of all the homeless people on the street, like how many of them just have psychosis and it's just ruined their lives. I really don't know, but talking about it should make it better. And yeah, I just think that the more people know about it, the better. Like, anyone could have a friend who has it, or something like that, and then they don't realise that their friend is sending them weird messages and they don't understand. But if they knew about psychosis, they could say to their friend, oh, you have psychosis. So it's really important that people talk about it a bit more. And my care coordinator, that's someone who helps me like in the early intervention psychosis team, which is like a team that takes care of me after I've had psychosis. He said to me when I first started with him, he said, people talk about depression, but they don't talk about psychosis, and we need to change that. We need to make sure people are talking about psychosis as well. So I really think it's important that we start talking about psychosis, and we recognise it as like a mental illness that is almost as common as depression. I don't think it's as common as depression, but it's pretty common. Like, you'd be surprised how many people have messaged me saying that my videos help them, and then they've mentioned that they have a family member who has psychosis, and they send my videos to them. And it really just makes you think, like, how many people have this and have not been diagnosed, and how many people have this and like their families don't know how to support them and stuff like that. So I really want to keep putting a message out there and hope that people watch it and then understand this condition a little bit better. And so I'm going to talk about one of the worst nights of my life, psychosis. And it all started when I was driving around. So I was homeless, living in my car. I'd moved into my car because I was having like a really hard time with the people I was living with. And I just said to myself, right, I'm going to live in my car. I'll be safe from them. And then I'll sort things out. But I hadn't really made up a plan or anything like that. And I had the psychosis pretty bad. So I wasn't really thinking about anything other than just like getting through this and like getting away from where I had been. And it started one night where I was driving around and I saw this moon in the sky, and I was like, wow, that's a really cool moon. And as I was driving towards it, it disappeared, and I'd seen like building constructions, and so I thought that people had placed the moon in the sky, and like maybe the moon wasn't actually real, it was just what people hung up in the sky each night, because I'd seen all this like building works around the moon where I thought I'd saw the moon. And so I started to believe that the moon gets taken down each night and put up each night by people who live near us, and they just like hung it in the sky and then taken it down. So that's like the first sign that something was a bit wrong, but I just went with it. And then I started driving along, and I saw this kind of memorial to the new king. And I Prince Philip. It was Prince Philip, the husband of the Queen. And I'd seen this memorial to him, and I thought, because I'd seen like the movie Get Out, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's about a black guy who ends up in this white family, and they're all racist, and they want to take over the bodies of black people and live through black people when they've gotten old and stuff like that. So they like regenerating themselves into new people, and they're saying like black is the new fashion, like it's more fashionable to be black now than it is to be white, so we'll move ourselves into black people's bodies instead of white people's bodies. And I had started to think that this was happening to me, and that it was like a real thing that was happening. So I started to believe that people were trying to take over each other's bodies, and I believed that Prince Philip had gotten old and he was decided to take over another younger person's body, and I thought maybe he was trying to do this to me. So I thought that Prince Philip was trying to take over my body and become young again, even though I think this was around the time that Prince Philip had died or something like that, but I believed he was still alive and that he was trying to take over my body. And so I drove past this memorial, and then I drove past it, and I took like another few turns around, and I kind of drove away from it. But then I ended up circling back, and I ended up coming back and seeing the memorial again. It was like a big projected screen of Prince Philip projected onto the screen and saying, "We love you, Prince Philip," or something like that. And I believe this was him trying to take over my body. And I drove past it again, and I tried turning a different direction, and then I still circled around and went past it again. So I saw it 3 times, and I was just literally shitting myself. I was thinking that he was trying to take over my body, and that I was going to end up being taken over by someone else. And so I was really, really scared. And then I kept driving. I managed to get past it in the end, so I didn't go back around past it again. And then I was driving along this long straight of road, and I started to feel the back of my head with my hand, and I felt like a little bump in my head, like it was like a spot or like a little lump. And I started to believe that that was a microchip and that I'd been microchipped. So I started to think that I'd been microchipped and that aliens were controlling me and like making me do all these crazy things, like driving around in the middle of nowhere without anywhere to go. And yeah, I just started to believe that, and I started trying to pull out the microchip, which was just a spot, but I was trying to like pick it out of my head. Like that they microchipped me. Like I believe that maybe like when I'd been sleeping, they had come into my room and like drugged me and then implanted a microchip into my brain. But I definitely believe that they were like aliens or something like that. And I was just really, really scared. And I went to a hotel that night and I was so afraid that I was like writing down everything that was happening so that I could not so I could remember, so that like when they had taken over my body or something like that, that I would know and I would be able to get myself back. And I was writing in pen, but the pen ran out. So then I started using toothpaste. And I started writing in this notepad with toothpaste, just trying to write down everything that was happening so that I could remember it. And I still have that notebook with toothpaste. I'll show it in another video or something. But I still have that notepad with toothpaste in it, I think. So yeah, it was just a crazy night. And that night I tried to call my dad because I was believing in David Lynch movies. They're like really surrealist. And I'd seen one of his films and it said like about there's a phone number that you need to call. And I was like, that's my dad's number. I need to call my dad's number because it's from this film. And it's telling me to call the number. And it's saying, do you remember the number? Like that's what they kept on saying in the film. So I was like, I remember the number. It's my dad's phone number. So I'm going to call that number. And I think I tried calling him. And I don't know if I got through or not. But he said to me afterwards about like a time that I called him when I was driving around. And that he went out looking for me and he went to different hotels that I'd been to. And he tried to find me. And I just remember being so afraid and just being petrified that people were trying to take over my body and that I was effectively going to cease existing as I was, and I was going to be taken over by someone else or by aliens that were controlling me. And it was really scary. So yeah, that's one of the worst nights of my life. It's one of the worst. I had like another really bad one that I'll explain in another video. But yeah, that's just so you can see the extent of the psychosis and what it makes people do. So you can't imagine like people living on the streets and stuff where they've had this psychosis. And it's just ruined their life, because it literally ruined my life. But luckily, it only lasted for a while. Like it was like I was living in my car for a year. And it didn't last the whole year. So I got back on my feet and I got a job and I started to live in an apartment with some friends. And luckily it didn't last forever and it wasn't always that bad. But it came back when I got stressed again. So it's an ongoing condition. And yeah, I just think it's good to talk about it, so here we go. Right, that's it for today's video.